Disclaimer, before we start, viewer discretion is highly recommended. The following content is intended solely for educational and entertainment use.
This is the exact federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial. According to Inner City Press, the atmosphere inside the courtroom was extremely tense.
Diddy sat quietly at the defense table, eyes fixed on the ground, trying to conceal the mounting pressure surrounding him. The trial had already been a public disaster.
But what unfolded on the fifth day completely changed everything. Nobody anticipated 50 Cent's arrival. Even fewer were ready for what he was about to reveal. Yet the moment he entered through those doors, the entire scene shifted. Cameras flashed, whispers spread across the room, and Diddy's calm facade shattered right before everyone's eyes.
For more than 10 years, 50 Cent had been one of the rare celebrities openly criticizing Diddy. Now, he wasn't just throwing shade from afar. He was walking into the courtroom to stand with Cassie. And when he spoke, it wasn't for drama. It was for the truth.
What followed sparked a wave of silence breaking among celebrities, secret documents emerging, and a powerful empire beginning to crumble. This is the story of what happened when 50 Cent showed up at Diddy's trial.
Day 5 of the trial was expected to be routine. Cassie was scheduled to return to the stand for further questioning. The defense team had been scrambling to recover after damaging video evidence and emotional testimony from the previous day. Diddy arrived, accompanied by his legal team and extra security, trying to keep a composed front. But there was an undeniable tension in the air, an electric feeling that something unexpected was about to happen. That's when the back doors of the courtroom opened and 50 Cent walked in. Wearing a sleek gray suit and dark sunglasses, he entered with purpose. The courtroom fell completely silent. Even the rustling of papers stopped. Cassie's lawyer turned to look. Diddy froze in place. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. No one had expected him to actually appear in person. Not here. He had been making noise online for weeks, posting cryptic messages, sharing old interviews, and throwing shade.
But this was different. This was a clear statement. At first, he said nothing. He simply took a seat near the back, folded his arms, and locked eyes on Diddy. The prosecutors exchanged glances. The defense visibly panicked. One of Diddy's lawyers leaned over, whispering urgently into his ear. But Diddy didn't respond. He stared back at 50 Cent, like a man confronting a ghost from a past he couldn't escape. The judge acknowledged 50 Cent's presence silently. She gave a slight nod in his direction before continuing with the court proceedings as usual. But the atmosphere had shifted. Everyone could feel it. Something big was about to happen. Witnesses noted that Diddy's behavior changed instantly. His jaw tightened, and his hands, which had been calm moments before, began to twitch nervously. He knew 50 Cent wasn't there just to watch. He had come to expose something. When the lunch break was announced, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps.
Cameras were rolling, microphones held high. Everyone waited to hear what 50 Cent had to say. And then he spoke. "I'm here because I've seen this industry protect the wrong people. For far too long," he started. "Cassie is brave for standing up like she is. She's not alone anymore. Not while I'm here." Wasn't just a catchy line. 50 Cent laid everything out. He said he'd witnessed strange behavior from Diddy for years. Things that made him uncomfortable. Things others ignored or laughed off. Things he now recognized for what they truly were. Everyone sensed something was wrong, he said, yet they stayed silent because Diddy held immense influence. He could destroy careers.
He confirmed that he'd been collaborating quietly with Cassie's legal team, supplying documents, old photographs, phone records, and even a statement from a former bodyguard who claimed to have witnessed troubling events at Diddy's private gatherings. 50 Cent said he was fed up with the silence, tired of being branded crazy for pointing out what others refused to acknowledge. Then came the major revelation. He announced he was financing an independent inquiry, hiring private investigators to thoroughly examine Diddy's past. Not for publicity, he insisted, but because too many people had been hurt and too many still lived in fear. Cassie's team issued a brief statement expressing gratitude to 50 Cent for his support, bravery, and commitment to the truth. Meanwhile, Diddy's attorneys dismissed the appearance as a publicity stunt and attempted to minimize its significance. But it was clear they were unsettled.
Back inside the courtroom, the tension was thicker than ever. Diddy avoided eye contact with the audience. His fingers drummed nervously on the table. His breathing grew heavier. 50 Cent remained silent, arms folded, observing intently. The defense requested a private sidebar with the judge. Rumors circulated that they were planning to seek a gag order to be strict public comments. But it was too late. Headlines were already written. The footage of 50 Cent's courthouse remarks went viral immediately. Celebrities who had stayed quiet began retweeting Cassie's original lawsuit. Others shared cryptic messages. The wall of silence was starting to crack, and 50 Cent had thrown the first punch. When court resumed, Cassie returned to the stand. But this time, she wasn't alone. She stood taller, more composed, more determined. It was a quiet confidence that comes only when someone knows they're finally being heard.
The courtroom noticed immediately. Her voice, steady before, now carried a sharp determination. She didn't just recall memories, she delivered them like a challenge. She confirmed she had been in contact with 50 Cent's team, sharing messages, timelines, and recordings, and that additional witnesses had come forward since his public show of support. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said clearly, locking eyes with the jury. "Not when people are finally paying attention." She went on to describe incidents she had previously been too afraid to reveal. One involved a 2017 trip to the Hamptons, where she said she was confined to a guest house for 2 days after texting another artist. "He said I humiliated him in front of the industry," she recalled. "He said I was his possession." The defense objected, but the judge overruled.
Cassie also described the unspoken rules in Diddy's world. Where to stand at parties, who she was allowed to speak to, when she could leave the room. It wasn't love, it was control. Then came the moment that stunned everyone. She turned slightly toward the gallery, eyes steady. "I know some of you here have seen what he's done. And I hope you speak up too." The sound of heavy breathing came from the back. It was Diddy. His eyes locked on her, filled with a mix of disbelief and rage. One of his lawyers rested a hand on his shoulder, but he did not respond. 50 Cent sat still, but his approving nod did not go unnoticed. Cassie's testimony hit harder than ever, not just because of what she said, but because now she wasn't standing alone. The presence of someone as prominent as 50 Cent gave her words weight, and the jury felt it. People watching the courtroom noticed several jurors taking extra notes, leaning forward with interest.
One juror even shook their head slowly during parts of Cassie's testimony. It was no longer just Cassie against Diddy. Now it was Cassie, 50 Cent, and a growing wave of public support crashing down on Diddy's carefully built empire. The defense was breaking apart, slowly, publicly, and painfully. After 50 Cent's courthouse appearance and Cassie's confident new testimony, Diddy's lawyers looked shaken. The polished legal team that had confidently entered the courtroom on day one was gone. Instead, they appeared desperate to rethink a strategy that had been focused on controlling the story and making Diddy seem calm, professional, and misunderstood. Court insiders said the defense held an emergency strategy meeting in their hotel that lasted until nearly 4 a.m. Leaked notes showed they debated whether to keep denying everything or switch to an emotional appeal.
This new approach would portray Diddy as a flawed man shaped by his environment, someone who made mistakes but didn't deserve public destruction. This was a big change from their original argument of complete innocence. That morning, the prosecution took advantage of the chaos. They filed a motion to add testimony from 2 new witnesses, former employees who claimed to have first-hand knowledge of what Cassie described. One was a former tour manager who said he once saw Diddy yelling at Cassie behind closed doors, then storming out and punching a wall. The other was an ex-assistant who quit after being asked to track Cassie's location and report back every hour. The defense objected, but the judge overruled, saying the new testimony was relevant to showing a pattern of behavior. Meanwhile, the jury was fully engaged. Juror number 7, a middle-aged woman who had shown no emotion before, was now leaning forward, writing quickly in her notebook.
Juror 11, a young man who had seemed distracted earlier, kept his eyes fixed on the witness stand. Diddy himself looked worn down. He stopped taking notes and began whispering and muttering to his lawyers. At one point, a courtroom sketch artist captured him with his head in his hands. This was not the confident man who once ruled the music world. This was someone losing control. Outside the courtroom, the reaction was huge and immediate. Clips of 50 Cent's courthouse speech went viral on Instagram, TikTok, and X. In less than 12 hours, over 60 million people had seen him publicly support Cassie and call out the industry for protecting men like Diddy. For years,
Justin Bieber went further. He deleted multiple posts praising Diddy and posted a cryptic story that said, "Sometimes we learn too late who people really are." Within 24 hours, dozens of artists joined in. Cardi B posted, "Protect women, no matter how powerful the man is." Drake liked a tweet that said, "Real ones speak up. Cowards stay quiet." Even celebrities outside of music like Viola Davis and Gabrielle Union shared messages supporting Cassie. But the biggest surprise came from someone nobody expected. A producer who had stayed anonymous for more than 10 years suddenly spoke out on X. "I worked on 3 of Diddy's projects. I saw things. I kept quiet. Not anymore." That single post racked up over 300,000 likes by the end of the day. Inside sources told Variety that top executives at Revolt, Diddy's media company, started emergency meetings. Advertisers were pulling their support. At least 2 sponsors for upcoming brand events canceled their deals.
one Revolt employee told a reporter, "People are jumping ship. Nobody wants to be the last one standing next to him when this all falls apart." Meanwhile, 50 Cent kept posting. Each message was carefully planned. One showed a photo of him and Cassie backstage at an award show years ago, captioned, "You always deserved better." Another post simply said, "Yay 5, it starts here." The message was clear. He wasn't done. Back in court, Cassie's return to the witness stand was devastating. It was her second time testifying that week, but this time she didn't just talk about what happened to her. She exposed the system that allowed it. Her tone was calm, but her words were explosive. She described what she called control architecture, explaining how Diddy's team kept her isolated. Cassie said her calendar was managed down to the hour, and she wasn't allowed to book her own travel.
If she was seen talking to another man in the music industry, someone from Diddy's circle would pull her aside and remind her, "Who made you?" She told the court about a 2016 incident where Diddy allegedly slapped a phone out of her hand after she laughed at another artist's joke backstage at an award show. He told her she was embarrassing him, didn't know how to act, and needed to learn respect. Then came the moment that completely changed the jury's mood. Cassie played an old audio recording through the court's speakers with the judge's permission. In the recording, Diddy's voice yelled, "Don't test me, Cass. You know what happens when you push me." The courtroom went silent. This audio had never been heard publicly before. Cassie's lawyers said it came from an old cloud-synced iPad she had forgotten about until recently.
The defense tried to object, but it was too late. Diddy's face went pale. One of his lawyers whispered to him, but he didn't respond. A courtroom sketch artist caught the exact moment he dropped his pen and stared blankly at the audio player, as if it had betrayed him. By the time court adjourned, even Diddy's strongest supporters in the gallery looked uneasy. His carefully crafted image, cool, composed, in control, had officially fallen apart. Cassie's second day on the stand proved what everyone was starting to realize. This trial wasn't just about one relationship. It was about what happens when unchecked power meets silence. Day 5 began tense, even before it started. The media buzzed about Justin Bieber's cryptic online comments from the night before, and the courthouse was surrounded by heavy security, like something historic was about to happen. No one knew what exactly, but at 10:13 a.m., everything changed.
It's when 50 Cent walked into the courtroom. Not through a side door, not with security escorting him. He came in alone, wearing a tailored black suit and dark glasses, walking straight down the center aisle, like it was his stage. He didn't say a word, not even a nod, but the energy in the room shifted instantly. People who had been slouched in their chairs suddenly sat up straight. Phones that were tucked away quickly reappeared. Reporters exchanged wide-eyed glances. This wasn't just a courtroom anymore. It had turned into a stage. Diddy saw him immediately. Witnesses later said his entire body language changed the moment 50 Cent walked in. His jaw clenched tight. He leaned forward, whispering something to his lawyer. His fingers, which had been resting calmly on a notepad just moments before, now dug into the edges of the table. The prosecutor noticed too. She paused her pacing, letting the silence fill the room.
As if to acknowledge that this wasn't just a new witness entering. It was a statement. Cassie's eyes flicked toward 50 Cent once. No smile, no reaction. But the moment didn't go unnoticed. The defense team scrambled, whispering urgently, passing papers. Diddy glanced back several times, visibly rattled. And 50? He just sat there, arms folded, completely still. What nobody realized was that 50 Cent wasn't just there to watch. He was there to be seen. What happened next wasn't planned. Not by Diddy, not by the defense, and not even by 50. But it changed everything. During Cassie's afternoon testimony, she began describing a moment that clearly struck a nerve. A 2018 incident at Diddy's Miami estate. She said she was locked in a private room for over a day after being caught talking to another executive. But it was Diddy who couldn't stay still. As she spoke, he started shaking his head. Then came the whispered words to his lawyer. Then the bouncing leg. Finally, he exploded.
"That's not what happened," he shouted, slamming his open palm on the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Everyone froze. Even the court reporter's fingers paused mid-keystroke. Cassie didn't flinch. Judge Harmon raised her gavel. "Mr. Combs, this is your only warning. One more outburst and you will be removed." But Diddy didn't stop. His eyes weren't on Cassie anymore. They locked onto the back of the courtroom where 50 Cent sat. "And you?" he growled, pointing. "You've been waiting for this, haven't you? You'll regret it." Security moved immediately. 2 guards closed in behind Diddy's seat. One stood between him and the gallery. The room held its breath, expecting another explosion. But 50 Cent didn't react. No word, no flinch, just a slow, deliberate shift in posture. He leaned back, crossed one leg over the other, and stared.
Cassie kept testifying as if nothing had happened. The judge didn't call a recess. Instead, she let the silence linger and looked Diddy square in the eyes. "Control yourself, or I will." For a man who built his empire on always being in control, that one sentence landed harder than anything else. As the afternoon wore on, the courtroom grew quieter. No one dared speak out of turn. Even the reporters, who usually slipped away for breaks, stayed glued to their seats. Why? Because for the first time in decades, Diddy didn't seem untouchable. That outburst had revealed something no interview, scandal, or past lawsuit ever had. This wasn't the smiling mogul or the cool businessman. This was a man unraveling before everyone's eyes. And while Diddy was unraveling, 50 Cent was rising. Outside the courthouse, whispers quickly turned into headlines. TMZ ran the story. 50 Cent stares down Diddy in courtroom showdown.
Twitter flooded with clips from old interviews where 50 Cent had warned about Diddy for years. What once sounded like petty rap beef suddenly felt like chilling foresight. One video from 2009 resurfaced. 50 telling a host, "There's things about Puff that just don't sit right with me. That man's got secrets." Now those secrets were crawling out from under every stone. Inside, Diddy had gone silent. His legal team huddled close during breaks, speaking low and fast. Meanwhile, Cassie's attorneys were glowing. Their star witness had stayed composed through it all. Their biggest opponent had cracked in front of a federal judge. Even the jury seemed to notice. One older juror, who had previously taken methodical notes, now stared straight ahead, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. Another scribbled furiously as Cassie spoke, determined not to miss a single word. And still, 50 Cent sat in the back.
At one point, court security asked if he planned to stay the whole day. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. By then, it was clear. This wasn't just day 5 of a trial. This was the day the illusion shattered. The day a silent courtroom watched a powerful man come undone. The day the music industry realized it wasn't business as usual anymore. And it all changed the moment 50 Cent showed up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button now. Don't miss what happens next.